What's up, folks? Welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. Today, I got a very, very big guest, Royce White, 16th overall pick by the Houston Rockets in the 2012 NBA draft, now running as the GOP candidate for the Senate for the state of Minnesota, the dumpster fire, Minnesota. Man, Royce White, thank you so much for joining me. In 2022, you ran against Ilhan Omar and lost, and then you ran for Congress in 24 and lost that race, but you got 40% of the vote. So you're making headway here, man. You're moving forward, which you have the athlete mentality. You got the winner spirit, and that's why I like you. And that's why I was like, man, I got to get this guy on my show. Thank you so much for joining me, Royce.
Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
So everything that's going on right now, I've been following the globalist agenda for a very long time, especially after 9/11, everything that transpired after that. And I thought, oh, man, we're in for it. Then comes along Donald Trump, 2016. He upsets Hillary Clinton. I jump on the bandwagon. I'm all for it. I'm behind this movement. And I especially like the grassroots nationalist, what I call the nationalist populist movement, right? Which you're forging. I mean, you're moving ahead in this. Explain, man. Let's get it. Let's dig into this.
Yeah, well, I want
to do this.
Yeah, I want to go back to what you said there in the beginning about the athlete and the warrior spirit, because I always tell people that the crisis in this country is not communists, it's not Muslims, it's not Democrats and liberals, it's not Satanists, it's not even pedophiles. The real crisis in this country exists in our Christian community and within our conservative movement, because we've been soft. In some places we've been soft, and in some places we've been complicit. In some places the two cross over. And so, even in 2022, when I ran for Congress, I got an introduction into how the political process works at the local level, even in your congressional districts, right, where Ilhan Omar is in Minnesota, which is CD5, heavy Democrat district, but also has never really had a strong Republican representation. The Republican Party of Minnesota has never spent a lot of time, energy, or resources in that congressional district. It's been conceded to the communists. It's conceded territory, and we see a lot of that all across the country. Go ahead.
Wouldn't you say, though, I mean, the biggest problem now, I mean, how old are you, Royce? You're 34, 35?
34.
So I'm 48, man. So for me, I've seen a lot, and I've seen how the alpha male, the masculinity, and I wanted to touch on this with you just for a second, is being bred out of the younger generations. And I'm sure you're noticing
that would be a much deeper and more accurate diagnosis of the problem in our country, for sure. Yeah. I was talking in the political, but if you want to go to a more spiritual and root cause, yes, the neutering of our society is definitely top of the list.
But I
just said that on my show. I just said that on InfoWars. I hosted InfoWars on Sunday night, and I must have spent 40 minutes just talking about the erasure, as the left would say, of proper masculinity, for sure. Yeah.
And it's completely engineered. I mean, this is a war tactic. This is an assault on masculinity to eliminate the competitive male, which makes up American society. You take that out, you got the game won, and that's what they're doing. Correct? Do you agree with me on that? And we'll just touch on this for a second.
Yeah, 1,000%. And my point and what I was saying is, even in 2022, when I ran for Congress, I was getting an introduction into how this grassroots process works, and I met a lot of Republicans for the first time. And you go through what we're in now is caucus season, right, or a party BPOU endorsement convention season here before the primaries, come around. And in my convention, in my endorsing convention in CD5, I went against a woman named Cicely Davis, who I'm friends with now. I'm cool with her, but she had a bunch of establishment Republican folks behind her and pushing her, and a few individuals that come to mind. I won't even say their names because you wouldn't know who they were. The audience may not know, but they stood up and endorsed her in my convention. So I ended up losing by 40 votes in the convention. It was like 180 to 220 split. She goes on. We go on to a primary where only 10,000 Republicans in the city of Minneapolis, or in Congressional District 5, came out for that Republican primary. Now, to put that in perspective, 230,000 Republicans came out for the general election in that 2022 congressional midterm. So we only got, what is that, 5% of the voters to come out for the primary in Ilhan Omar's district, which tells you two things. One, the Republicans in that area do exist. There are Republicans there, but they are extremely apathetic. They are extremely apathetic about their participation in the process, their duty, their sacred honor, their civic duty. So after I lost in that primary, everybody told me, hey, just, maybe you had a good run, just, go ahead. And I go, are you kidding me? We're going up. They told me, run for city council, go on the school board, maybe run for mayor of one of these little small cities, little ancillary suburbs like a Richfield.
Not understanding your mindset, dude.
I'm going,
dude.
I'm going up. I'm going up. We're going to get a better sample size. We're going to get a better sample size than the neutered 10,000 Republicans in Congressional District 5 of Minnesota to find out where this Republican Party of Minnesota really is philosophically, morally, politically, culturally. Let's get a better sample size. So I go and run against Amy in 2024, and we get the exact inverse result. I win a statewide endorsement, overwhelmingly 68, 70% on the first ballot. And then I go on to win a primary with the entire Minnesota and national Republican establishment against me, which was the shot heard around the world. Because what it showed, and Eric Weinstein probably articulated the best of anybody I've ever heard yet, the primaries are used to prune the political parties of the populist candidates. And everybody, and we missed the buried lead. Everybody waits for the general elections to go out and vote, not understanding that the primaries are where the real wood gets chopped. Right. And where we get cheated out of genuine candidates who could actually represent us properly in Washington, D.C. So I was able to get through a primary. And then, of course, in the general, 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗄 won on paper. And by the way, for all of those who may be questioning the security of our elections, she got a magical extra 300 or 400,000 votes than she got in her previous election.
No,
yeah, when she
There's no doubt. So, we know what's going on, especially my audience. Yeah. You're talking to a very, these are not elementary MAGA people here in my audience. Yeah. They're very much, very seasoned. They know what's going on. In fact, we're following the operation as a whole here, what we call the Trump operation. And it looks like Trump is going to make a move in which he's going to sign an executive order. Okay, real ID, and then probably declare a national emergency as we go into the 2026 midterms, which is going to be the standoff. That's going to be the standoff. And as we go into that, people like you, I believe, are going to win because you're going to have a fair shot, especially if it's in-person paper ballot.
Let's see. And I'll say this with all due respect, as you see here, I have a show every Saturday morning and a podcast, 3 times a week at least. Plus I host InfoWars on Sunday as of late, in this cereal box that I came across at the Trump convention here in St. Cloud during his last presidential campaign.
Oh, is that what that is right there?
Yeah, there's real cereal in there. There's real cereal in there too. But anyway, I keep that on because it's badass. But I support the president is what I'm trying to say. However, I will say this: we will see, because there's no doubt that the elections aren't secure. And we as the American people, we have a right for them to be secure. We have a duty, a responsibility for them to be secure, for us to secure them. The president has that duty and responsibility, and I'm glad he's taking that serious. I am patiently awaiting that executive order. I'm 100% in support of it. However, it doesn't mean that I'm going to win, because, and I say this again with all due respect, there are a lot of rhino senators and Congress members still getting endorsed around this country. There are a lot of people, even within the administration, that I see as hostile to President Trump's core values or beliefs, or the beating heart of this MAGA and America First movement. There is still a lot of politics happening behind the scenes that don't make me confident that even if the elections are secured, that I'm the one who comes out on top. And again, and I'll give you an example. The NRSC, the do-nothing running dogs for Mitch McConnell, Tim Scott, Steve Daines, Lindsey Graham, the entire, crew just rolled out Michelle Tafoya to run against me here in the primary.
Right. I saw that.
Yeah, right. Pro-choice. I mean, what a slap in the face to Charlie Kirk and the entire evangelical Zionist based, and I hope we're going to talk about it, this entire Christian evangelical Zionist base that wants to preach to me about scripture, and I know it as well as anybody. I'm a Christian, I'm a Catholic, but hey, I mean, I'm a Christian. Point is, there's this entire movement happening right now, or narrative built on Charlie Kirk's brutal assassination, that this is going to be the referendum of God in American politics. This is going to be the referendum of faith in American politics. And yet, our United States senators on the Republican or conservative side roll out a publicly admitted pro-choice candidate and say that's the only way we can win in Minnesota. Not pass the SAVE Act so we could have a real election in Minnesota. No. We need a pro-choice moderate candidate, because walking back to the left is what? Anything other than going right back towards the insanity. So again, I'm just telling you the real. I'm just giving it to you how it really is.
And obviously we know both sides, same bird, two wings, right? The left, right. It's the same bird. And it's an obvious thing that we're seeing right now, especially with what's happening. And I'm watching this very closely with what's happening in TPUSA. Obviously that has been completely infiltrated, hijacked in Charlie Kirk's death. And what we're watching right now, to me, I'm in my jaws on the floor. I mean, I've always said when the pendulum swings left, it's going to go right, and we're watching it do that right now. And there's a fracturing within MAGA with TPUSA. That's the line in the sand, and that's going to be used as a battleground as we go into 2026 and 2028. How do you feel about that?
1,000%. I'll say this, and I've said it many times before. Charlie Kirk is a modern-day Christian martyr, and nobody can take anything away from his legacy. He was young, he was ambitious, he was sharp, he was articulate, and he had guts. You don't die a death like that unless you have guts. Every time you walk out in front of a crowd that you know can be hostile in a society where people have lost their minds, and we do live in a society where a lot of people have clearly lost their minds, it takes courage. So he has to be respected and admired for that. And even towards the end of his life, he started to question some of the fundamental pillars of this conservative movement without saying being Israel. I mean, he said it as nice. He said it as nice as you can say it. He said the right has to answer for how many of these Jewish elites funded the rise of anti-Jewish rhetoric and woke rhetoric, anti-American rhetoric, anti-white rhetoric in the universities or in the mainstream media. The right, the proto-Zionist people on the right have to at least be willing to acknowledge that, or we're not having an honest conversation. Okay, he gets brutally assassinated. I'm not making any claims about that whole deal, although I still have great questions about the assassination, and that investigation has become a buried lead in our media. And I don't like that. And my alarms go off about that.
I don't think anybody in my audience or myself, we don't believe the narrative, right? And I look at someone like, I also, and I don't know what your thoughts are on Candace Owens, but I'm paying attention to her. I think she's asking the questions Erica Kirk should be asking, to be honest.
Well, again, and Candace, another young woman who is ambitious, talented, articulate, sharp, and has the entire world in front of her. And can go as high as she wants to go, or she can go as low as she wants to go. She could stay right where she is. It's up to her what she does. And that goes for all of us. But I didn't even bring Charlie Kirk up to make it be about Charlie Kirk. What I'm saying is that, again, back to what I said in the very beginning, the referendum is on Christians in this country. In 2024, we saw a standing up of a satanic agenda. And we're about to watch it be revealed here in the rest of these Epstein files, by the way. And so for all the conspiracy theorists who said, oh, Satanism, what are you talking about? Oh, we're about to get a real dose of it here in a moment. But my point is that the referendum is on Christianity. And in 2024, it's estimated 33 million Christians still didn't vote. And now I don't know if the numbers are correct. I don't know if Christians are voting and they're not being counted, if they're voting and their votes are being flipped, or if they're actually staying at home. Either way, in Minnesota alone, it's estimated that 1.1 million conservatives and Christians of voter age didn't cast a vote in the 2024 election. All I'm saying is that the pathway to victory, the referendum on our country, on our people, is that we hold the right as the just right, firm on the right. We're not fringe right. We're not far right. We're not extreme right. We're not alt right. We're not fascist. We're just right. We have to have a border. We have to have some separation between men and women in prisons and sports. We have to have some moral fiber. We have to have a moral structure, or else society comes undone. These are not radical ideas. They've been framed as radical, and weak Republicans and conservatives have conceded to it. It just so happens they tend to be the same ones who say Israel's politics are more important than America's politics. And there's a connection there between those Republicans and our Christian population. And I've started to notice this. And the TPUSA thing kind of showed me. It's like, you are deeply interested in the politics of Israel, and yet I get the sense some of you aren't even voting in our elections.
Right.
If another country's politics are more important than your country's politics, you
Something's
are
wrong
a traitor. No, it's worse. You're a traitor. You're a traitor.
Evil wins when good men do nothing, and it
That's
almost
right.
seems like what we're
That's
seeing
right.
now is
Sorry,
a
I
lot
went
of
off on a
No.
tirade there. I'm particularly frustrated this morning.
No,
but
you're allowed to go on a tirade on my show.
Okay,
You can say what you want.
Thank
but
you. I
what I'm saying
apologize.
is, evil wins when good men do nothing. And what we see now with the Christians, to me, is they don't understand that they're warriors. We're supposed to slay and destroy demons. That's what we were anointed to do in Jesus' name. That's what I believe. And so when you see people, it's almost like the Christians have become more docile. Oh, God will take care of it. More sedentary, lethargic, lackadaisical. Would you agree with that? Like they're not being called to get out there and make a difference. They just think, God will handle it. God, this is in God's hands.
1,000, and it's not just a recent manifestation. This goes all the way back to the post-Enlightenment Reformation of Christianity. And again, I'm Catholic. I wear a pendant here of St. Michael on my neck every day. It never comes off. And the Archangel St. Michael was a warrior. He's a warrior in the heavens.
I have a statue of him right over here. Pretty
Amen,
crazy.
sir. 𝗬𝗗𝗏. But my problem is with the Catholic Church as well. I mean, we have deep corruption there in Rome. We have deep corruption in the Catholic Church, and we made a grave error back in the Middle Ages, the medieval ages of allowing the church to become a mechanism of tyrannical, monarchical corruption and sin as well. And so it opened up the doorway for this Martin Luther, this Protestant Reformation that got a lot of things right, that said a lot of things that made a lot of sense, that keyed in on a lot of important issues. The problem with it is that the Reformation represents a shift in Christianity where without a church, without a physical place with sacraments, without a physical place to hold together the structure, the physical structure of the faith in the real world, in the material world, Protestant Christianity is very philosophical in nature. It's very abstract. It's very esoteric. It's very it doesn't have any. It's not grounded in anything of the real world. So it's not by accident that they struggle to catalyze the Christian faith into actionable practice in politics or the rest of society. And Protestants, hey, you all, God bless you. I love you, and I love coming to your services, and there's a lot of spirit and soul there. And I understand that you love Jesus, but we've come to a crossroads in this country where Christians have to understand we will not survive. We will not survive unless we find a way to come together as Protestants and Catholics, but also be ready for violence. And if not violence, be ready for violence in the worst case scenario, but in the best case scenario, manifest the faith into practical action of politics, because even the Bible is a political document in some sense. Look at all the politics throughout the story, throughout the Bible. All of it centers around, you have Israel, you have all these other kingdoms and nations and these leaders and rulers and prophets and people who come forward at times of need to speak against the politic of their area or their era. That's exactly what we need today. And the Christian community has been stagnant in this sense since Jesus Christ walked the earth, or let's say since The Apostle Paul and St. Peter evangelized the European peninsula and gave us what is today the modern Christian West. But since then, we have had very few Christian people who have transformed and practicalized the faith into something that gets us political results. That's why we see a downslide of Christianity and a rise of Satanism right here in our home country. Who could deny it? Who could listen to what I'm saying, despite how it might make you uncomfortable as a Protestant or Catholic, whatever, make you uncomfortable? But look at the results. The results are Satanists walking around our streets, mocking Christ and mocking the very existence of this country. And if you sit home and you continue to play these passive-aggressive politics at the church, you're going to get rounded up and you're going to get killed. Charlie Kirk's an example.
And it's right. Not and they're ready to bring it. The left, the cultural Marxists, they're going to bring violence.
Yes.
They want that. They want chaos. They want civil unrest. They want a civil war. That's the whole objective here. And we've been following this very closely, watching this chess game that Trump is playing. It's a masterful game of chess. I still go down and say, yes, I recognize patterns. I recognize strategies. I was a fighter. I see it plain as day. And what we're seeing here as we come into, and what I think is going to happen, I want to get your point of view on this, is as we head into midterms, as this is going to escalate with ICE protests. These people much rather protest ICE than, I don't know, the clients on the Epstein files. I mean, the heinous acts that they did to our children, they rather protest ICE. What's your thoughts on all that? What's your feelings on that? Do you see this?
My feelings are, yes. Well, it's going to escalate. But and here's President Trump has to go max. He has to go max, and he has to go max right here, right now. Or else, and I'm not, look, there's something about the DNA of American citizens that longs for the truth and longs for freedom. No matter what befalls us, we will revolt until the last blue-blooded American takes his last breath. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And so I'm not an absolutist to say if we lose right now, we lose forever. No. There'll be a chance for us to revolt again. We are just currently in the best position possible to save this thing without the most damage, without the most violence and catastrophe. That's where we are right now. We have a chance right now to save it with the least amount of suffering. And I think we should pursue that. President Trump has to go max. The reason he has to go max is this country has been led, has been dominated, has been brainwashed by what historians refer to as the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. It has had the predominant political philosophy in our country and, more importantly, in our media, in our educational institutions for 60 plus years. The results are an absolute brainwashing of reality. We are not living in reality. These leftists, these left-leaning protesters, some of them are just out in the streets doing what they actually believe is right. They're
getting paid, a lot of them. A lot of them are
some of them are getting paid. There's no doubt about that. Some people are nihilistic. They're cynical. Some people hate their own life. Some people hate themselves. So why not want to see everything burn? But there are some people out there who are genuinely good people that have just been brainwashed. And so the left has done a great job of using all the identity politic issues as a proxy for the real issue. The real issue is they don't believe in having a country. And that's why this immigration enforcement issue is the final proxy as all of the other ones lose their momentum. Its momentum. The feminist Me Too movement, lost its momentum. We can't believe all women. That's ridiculous. Now we got women who have been lifelong feminists. We're not going to let these men come be in our locker rooms, or even worse, in our prisons. That's a problem, right? Okay, so now once you cross those three identity politic issues, what are you left with? You're left with the buried lead. You're left with the quiet part out loud. We don't want to have a border. We don't believe in having a country. We got Native American University of Minnesota professors here in Minnesota openly calling for the dismantling of the United States of America and the heteropatriarchy. Fine. You want to get rid of the heteropatriarchy of the United States of America? Leave the country. I don't care if you're Native American, indigenous, black, white, gay, straight, Christian, Muslim. If you want to get rid of our country, you should leave. And that's why but I'm bringing that up to say the ramping up is clear. We're getting to the quiet part out loud. We don't want to have a country. There's a fundamental disdain for this country, ideologically, philosophically, politically, socially. Now we're going to get to the point where all of the cards are revealed. You know what? Epstein, we'll call for Epstein, but show me all the Epstein protests. Like you said, we see the anti-ICE protests. I haven't seen one. I've been driving around the Twin Cities looking for protests to counter protest. I'm so stupid.
People be up in arms. You know, I saw a video, and I don't know if you saw this video of a guy at an airport screaming on the top of his lungs. He goes, "They killed babies," you know, screaming. He goes, "Do not see this." People just are surrounding him, looking at him like a deer in headlights. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, this guy looks crazy, but he's not. Actually, that's really the normal response. That's what people should be doing right now. Everybody should be up in arms on the street saying, what have we come to as a society where we're allowing this? We have found this out and we're not doing anything about it.
Amen. No, we should. No, absolutely. But again, here's why we aren't. Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest here. The reason why we're not in an uproar, a true civil uprising about the Epstein files, is because the slow decay of our morals in society is not unfamiliar to most people. The sexual perversion is not unfamiliar. Look, does anybody think it's by accident that the proliferation of OnlyFans and the normalization of prostitution coinciding with the Epstein files and the Epstein release, or even the Epstein scandal itself, is unrelated?
Of course,
it's not unrelated. It's not unrelated, and it's not inconsequential. There's a part of our society that's so sick with sexual perversion that the Epstein thing sounds crazy. It looks crazy on paper. People are shocked by it. But really and truly, they're not. They're not. People aren't shocked.
Royce, think about this also. I mean, you know, if you look at this at the very core, it's satanic, right? All of it's satanic.
That's right.
They're paying homage to Baal. What do you think abortions have been for all these last decades, you know, since Roe versus Wade? I mean, abortions is a mass sacrifice, and I'm sure you agree with this. That's what it is. This is a spiritual war. Abortion is a mass sacrifice to Baal, and that's why the women today, the feminists today, they hear this stuff probably about Jeffrey Epstein and the children and this, and they're like, they have no value on that life. You know, they have no value on that children's life.
And we should invite every young woman in this country who may have had an abortion in her life to invite her into our movement. And here's why I say that. Because again, back to the beginning where I say they brought a pro-choice Michelle Tafoya into my race as a subtle yet significant cog in this next piece of the agenda. It's like, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's brutal assassination and a Christian referendum, will the Republicans of Minnesota, the cultural epicenter of American politics, choose pro-choice? Will they choose it? Will they choose it out of political strategy? That's how sophisticated these people are in their social engineering. My point being this: hold the principle, move people toward the principle. I don't care if there's a woman out there who had an abortion in her lifetime. She has to take that up with God, as we all do all of our sins. The point is, on paper, our government, our party, our movement, our culture has to hold a principle, and the principle should be that all life has value. Now, where some of those things may get fudged and those lines blurred, that will happen. For example, somebody breaks into my house in the middle of the night, and I don't want to have to kill them, but I might have to, right? You know, it may have to happen. Should I be remorseful for it? Yes. The problem isn't, and I'll say this, the problem is with the abortion writ large, and I do think that there's a much higher political group of people, social engineering group of people, who see this as a dividing line and were predatory on young women who were unbeknownst what they were being used for. Same as black people. Same, there are a lot of lesbians and gays who have been drafted into the idea that don't really understand the agenda, or they don't really see what the real goal is, how they're being used. I think Jews the same way. I think the Jewish identity has been used and drafted into a much more sinister and sadistic political agenda. My point being, young women need us to hold the principle and move them toward the principle. It's not even about the abortion necessarily. It's about the fact that we have normalized that there's anything wrong with it or anything to be remorseful about. We've taken the remorse out of our society. We've made our society sociopathic by doctrine. That is the real problem. It's not that people aren't going to sin. It's not that people aren't going to have mortal sin. People will have mortal sin, but do you believe in sin itself, and do you believe that repentance is necessary? This is the crisis of our society.
And that's why now what we're seeing, they see that a lot of Christians are catching on, and I'm talking about the deep state, and that's why they're fractioning MAGA right now with TPUSA and drawing that line in the sand right there. And you have a lot of these evangelists and people that are just gravitating to TPUSA blindly, not seeing that, not using discernment. I think a true Christian uses discernment. It's just a spiritual, innate thing you have, that you see this and you go, whoa, 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 whoa. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing, right, Royce? I mean, we got to come out and as a Christian, man, you too. I mean, we have to come out and put our foot down and say, hey, folks, look where you're being led. You're being led astray. Do you agree with me?
I think a lot of Christian. I think a lot of Christian women, even in this country, are the spiritual head of their household. Even in our Christian homes, and even that's disordered. Yeah. Does anybody think that goes back to men? That goes back to men losing their masculinity and becoming. Does anybody think that it's a coincidence? The rise of NFL football on Sundays and its popularity in the conservative Middle American base, and the rapid decline of Christian attendance or Christian faith in the 21st century. Does anybody see those two things as coincidental?
It's interesting.
It's intentional.
Yeah.
Look, just go map out the rise of the NFL, of NFL football on Sundays, which I love football. I think it's a great game. A lot to be taken from sports. I'm not anti-sports. I love football. I love basketball. I love combat sports, mixed martial arts, boxing. I love sports. We need more athletes to step up and be leaders because we understand reality. But there's a difference between the game, the arena, the hard work it takes to be great, the spectacle, the fans, and then how it's used and broadcasted across this country. And there was nothing wrong with NFL football on Sundays. They should have moved it to 3 o'clock and later so that people could go to church at 8, 9, 10, and noon like they had already. But the leaders of the NFL knew what they were being drafted to do. They knew what they were being drafted to do long term.
And have you noticed too, like the degeneration of the NFL, like how it's been being dissolved into this feminist, like when this first started happening, I was like, oh, they're wearing pink helmets and pink shoes today. Oh, Cancer Month. Okay, well, that's innocent. That makes sense. And then I was like, well, where's this leading? Where are they going with that? Then the next thing you know, NFL rainbow colors, rainbow insignia, rainbow this, rainbow that. And then I saw it. That's how they herd the masses. They chip away at you a little bit. Whoa.
Right.
Pink helmet, pink shoes, Cancer Month. Nah. There's a bigger agenda at play here, folks. You agree with that, Royce? I mean, you were an athlete, you were in sports.
I was an athlete. I got blackballed from the NBA. I fought them about mental health policy. And I'm not talking about the new woke mental health policy. I'm not talking if you don't let me cut my penis off, then you're doing a harm to my mental health, right? No, I'm not talking about that. If you don't give me hormone blockers or testosterone or affirm my gender fluidity, then you're doing a disservice to my mental health. No, I was talking about something completely different. Really, what I was saying is that, and this is a very Catholic perspective. St. Thomas Aquinas used to say or would say that the spirit and the intellect are inextricably linked. Well, the intellect lives in the mind. Okay, so you could say that the mental health is another way to say the human condition. The convergence of mind, body, and spirit emanates from human consciousness. It emanates from the spirit, which animates human consciousness, which then is the baseline by which all other things occur in the human existence. So I was saying to the NBA, here you have a global corporate giant, and all of a sudden we talk about all these social issues. We get to mental health, and there's crickets. Why? Well, it's because the entire corporate community planned to be predatory on the human psychology through social media and social engineering and propaganda. So they didn't want to have a conversation about that. I took that on the chin, fell on my sword, no problem. But I would have been blackballed from the NBA for the next 3 important cultural, political issues as well. I would have stood up and said no. China, I would have stood up and said no. And certainly mandates, I would have stood up alongside Kyrie Irving and said absolutely not. So again, like you said, yes, pro sports is, and all of mainstream media is a way where they subtly smuggle in the agenda over the long haul because they have intergenerational money, they have intergenerational resources and time to execute these agendas against people who just live everyday lives, day to day, check to check. That's where our political organization, that's what made Charlie Kirk dangerous, is because Charlie Kirk represented an organizational practice of a political movement that was looking out into the future, that was planning a few generations ahead. And they can't have that. They can't have that working class organize and plan into the future. That's not supposed to be our area or our line of country.
I think he would have been a great prospect or predecessor to, or successor, sorry, to President Trump. And I think they saw that coming as well. They're like, man, this guy, he's catching fire all over the nation. He's capturing the youth, the hearts and minds of the youth. We got to eliminate this guy. And he's not playing ball. He's not playing ball with that little country in the Middle East. He's not accepting any of our money. We can't control him. What are we going to do? Take him out. That's what we do. Take him out. So they did. What's your thoughts now? And I like how you're coming in, and I hope you catch fire, man. And I hope people really watch this video and share it on your behalf because, man, you got my backing, endorsement 100%, brother.
Thank you, man.
Let me ask you this. What do you see now? And I hope you win Senate, dude. I'm going to push for this. I'll bring you on as many times as it takes. What do you see now? Going into the last 3 years of Trump and then a post-Trump era. I'm concerned, and a lot of people are concerned, and a lot of people think, well, it's going to go back to business as usual as soon as he's out of there. Man, we really need someone to take the helm of the ship, and I hope that can be you. I hope you get your foot in the door and you keep making these strides to get this, maybe even some president. Who knows? What's your thoughts of a post-Trump era, man? Is it kind of worry? Are you thinking like, damn?
Yeah. Well, I think every American citizen should be concerned. The future of our nation rests upon the edge of a blade, and our trajectory is as unstable as you could possibly imagine, as unstable as you could possibly, write up. I think we're headed for a constitutional crisis. I think we're headed for little pockets of quasi-civil war. One almost broke out here in Minnesota recently when you have a mayor and a governor that openly say, hey, we're not going to comply with federal government and federal law enforcement or basic laws like immigration, policy. So you're starting to see the rumblings of a quasi-civil war skirmishes all across the country. And I think they'll intensify as we get through the next 3 years here. Hopefully President Trump, and sometimes you have to come down with an iron fist, and that is the pathway to peace temporarily. The pathway to peace for us long term as a country is more of what President Trump has been trying to push for: hemispheric strategy. America has to become a manufacturing superpower again. We have to be conscious of our role in the world, not to be a global empire, a global dollar empire, but put Americans first, America first, America first, America first. And I am concerned that in a post-Trump era, the America first spirit of this MAGA movement is lost. But people like me are going to be around, God willing. God willing, people like me will be around, and in Charlie Kirk's absence, or anybody, I'd invite any of these. I'd invite anybody: conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, libertarian, independent, Christian, Muslim, Jew. I'd invite any of them to have a conversation with me about any of the basic and important issues. A presidential bid is in my future at some point. I'm 34 years old. Let's see if we can get in the United States Senate first, because I don't think there are a handful of America first United States senators in the entire United States Senate.
Is this the first time you've said this on a podcast?
About a presidential bid?
Yeah.
Yes, I think so, maybe.
All right, folks. There, got to give you the thumbs up for that one, man.
Some people will say that's crazy. Just same way they said it with President. So. No. Some people they said it with President Trump, and they'll say, "Oh, Royce's background, and look at all of the baggage." We need people with dirt under their fingernails. Certain types of dirt. I mean, every human being, every
not
man.
Epstein dirt, but dirt.
Not Epstein dirt. That is a different type of dirt for sure. But you know, people have problems throughout their life, and you grow from them. And that's one of the beauties about Christianity, is we understand the value of repentance and forgiveness and being able to change your life. And I haven't been in much trouble. I'm not a convicted felon or anything like that. But, you know, we can pick about people's background all we want. The point is, and this is why the mainstream media avoids me like the Black Plague, is because I understand the issues. I understand the history of this country. I understand the issues. I understand them philosophically and psychologically. I understand the whole animating, you know, sort of mentality that has us where we are. And where we are right now, to your point about a post-Trump era, we have a decision to make about money. We have a fundamental decision to make about money in our culture. And up until now, post-industrial, and maybe since time immemorial, but really in the post-industrial age, money has been the most important thing in our civilization. And money's done great things. It's been a great medium to do wonderful, miraculous things, even, you could say. The stuff that we've built, the stuff we've achieved scientifically, the stuff that we've done, the things that we've done, you know, in medicine and with food, nothing short of miraculous. However, with too much information and not enough wisdom, you have big problems. And so, you know, even I give you an example. Modern monetary theory, for example, a lot of people may not even know what that is, but modern monetary theory is basically a Marxist idea of economic philosophy to reduce the human existence further down to price. And I just tell all you Americans out there who think you're outsmarting the Chinese, you're not. They have a much older civilization than ours, and they are much more patient. And they are much more serious about their ethno-national identity and the future of their nation and their people than we are. We're not going to beat them in a game of radical materialism. We're not going to beat them in a game of price. So we have to make a decision. Are we going to infuse some morals, some values, some beliefs, some things about what it means to be American that can offset the Chinese's head start on us?
Free fall and decay right now.
Right. That's right.
It's in free fall and decay right now. Right. Royce, let me jump to some other stuff. We both have a good close friend in Steve Bannon. I was with Steve Bannon with the We Build the Wall. I love Steve Bannon. He's a good dude, in my opinion. I know you've said that he's your mentor. He's helping you along. Now he just these Epsteins, his name's in there. What's your thoughts on that? And me personally, I've been talking to a few of the people very close to him, and I'd love to get him on the show to discuss further. But you know, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt here. I think he was trying to get a story from Epstein, and I think they're trying to play each other, to be honest with you.
Let me say something. Let me say something about Steve. I love Steve. He's a friend. He's been a mentor. Nothing Steve has ever said to me in private has been anything other than in support of this country and the fundamental ideas that I laid out here about our politics and about our culture. Fellow Catholic brother. And so we share a similar view of the faith. And he's been one of the few people in our recent American history that are able to articulate the plight of the working man, the plight of the working class, the economic scam waged against the working class by our elites, and a much broader globalist agenda in a way that was digestible for your average middle American. And that's why so many people follow him, and that's why so many people love him. It's a double-edged sword, because part of the reason Steve is able or has been able to be as successful as he is he talks in a way that's very pragmatic, ultra pragmatic. He just says things the way that they are.
Right.
Where a lot of people in our country, even if they're common sense folks, they still have a tendency to tilt towards their political side of the aisle. Steve isn't like that. Steve has never been like that. Steve is a very genuine populist thought leader. And so when I look at the files and him, I look at the files, or I look at the emails between him and Epstein, one, I think he was zooming them. I really do. I think he was playing them.
That's what I agree with you on that.
If I was to say, and me and Steve don't talk about this in our me and Steve's personal relationship is interesting, where we talk without talking. I mean, we'll send each other a link or a story, or we'll have one sentence interaction and say, look at this, look at that. This is what this is. This is what the deal is. And bada boom, bada bing. But so we haven't really talked about this Epstein thing in great detail or any detail at all. But if I'm being honest, it wouldn't surprise me at all for Steve to offer himself up to run counter intel on Epstein. And the entire again, who was one of the first mainstream conservative influencers, podcast leaders, to deviate from the conservative right's dogma about Israel and foreign policy? Okay, and Epstein's littered, Israel's fingerprints are all, not just Israel, because there's a lot of other intelligence agencies as well, but Israel's fingerprints are all over these Epstein files. There's no doubt about it. And now out of all of it, Bannon becomes the bad guy in the deal? Oh, how convenient. I mean, he's my friend. I'm not being biased.
Never find everybody else in the files. Everyone's just zooming in on Trump and Bannon.
Exactly. Well, and Bannon specifically, though. See, because Trump people have to give a pass to because he's the president of the United States. And that just has to, that is what it is. I mean, there's no getting, he is the president of the United States. So there are different implications for his position currently. But Bannon, they're really zeroing in on him. And I just tend to see the same wing of people who were very, very in support of Israel, of Zionism in the most recent let's say, split or friction on the right, going after Steve Bannon at full tilt. But they never mention Israel's implications with Epstein writ large. And that's an important point. I'm not giving an excuse or saying what it is or what it wasn't, but I'm just saying I can read the underlying energy. And I will say, even Bannon, he said, and he put it plainly, I'm a filmmaker. I make documentaries. I have 30 years of experience making films and documentaries, and I was interviewing or doing a documentary on a reclusive subject. One of the most interesting people, whether you like him or not, just like Charles Manson, just like Jim Jones, Jeffrey Epstein will go down in human history as one of the most interesting stories ever. And Steve Bannon's one of the only people who got 50, 60 plus hours with him on footage, sort of unrestrained, unadulterated, unfiltered. And we need that. We needed that. I think the 2-hour interview, he did gave us a lot of insight into who Jeffrey Epstein was, what he thought, and maybe, and most importantly, what he was commissioned to do by some very powerful people. I mean, the Trilateral Commission, imagine Jeffrey Epstein says that he was drafted by the Trilateral Commission, and everybody's still interested in his email conversations about some casual stuff with said person. I want to know why the Trilateral Commission drafted this guy to do whatever the hell it was he was doing. And so, I think Bannon was moling. I think he won't confirm or deny. And again, back to when the Congress tried to subpoena him on his executive privilege, he was very loyal to the president. He refused to accept that subpoena. He refused to appear before Congress, and he went to federal prison to hold that line of executive privilege on behalf of President Trump. So that tells me that he is deeply loyal not only to the president but to this movement. And it wouldn't shock me at all if he was running counter intel on Epstein.
Okay, so that's what I was going to go with this. I think when I watched the footage that I watched, I'm like, oh, this is like two master chess players trying to beat each other here. This is what that is. I was like, they're trying to own each other on this. That's what's going on here, and that's how Steve Bannon's mind works. And I know you agree with me on that. It is high level espionage. Me and Steve don't talk about those again. And when I say he's my mentor, what I mean is, when I came into politics in 2022, I was more apolitical. I had been waging an individual and solo battle against the entire global corporate community. So it was only natural that I find a home in the only political vehicle that would say even remote anything controversial about the global structure of things, economy, culture, the way the money works. The MAGA movement is the only movement in recent American history. Well, Rand Paul and the Tea Party, but it's an evolution now to the MAGA movement. But it's the JFK. But that was a whole different era in my timeline. Right. But it's the only recent movement, the short 21st century, that was willing to challenge the status quo of the globalist agenda. So naturally, I found a home there. In finding a home, I got into contact with Bannon very early, and he's never been anything but helpful and kind
and he's never asked me for anything. He never tries to impose upon what I should say or not. He lets me come on his show. He streams my podcast every night, and he lets me say whatever I want. Never once has Bannon messaged me, and I say the most controversial shit possible. Never once has he messaged me and said, hey, you shouldn't say that. Stay away from this, stay away from that. Never once. So it's just hard for me to believe. It's hard for me to accept that somebody like him would be so closely connected to somebody like me and have some deep, sinister political agenda and never try and impose it upon me since we're so close and he has that type of influence in my life. I'm just not buying it.
Neither am I.
I'm just not buying it.
Neither am I. And you and I have been pro athletes. We've seen the worst of the worst people, and we've seen the best in people. And game recognizes game, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's what it is. Royce, thank you so much for joining me, man. I'd love to have you on anytime, bro, on your journey. And I back it 100%, man. I'm really, really excited to see where you go with all this. Where do people find you, man? Where do people donate your campaign or whatever? Where do people find you?
RoyceWhite.us. That's my Senate campaign website. You can also find me on all social media platforms. My podcast, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Please Call Me Crazy on YouTube and Rumble. I also stream it on X. I also stream it on the War Room's platforms, Getter, Rumble, as well as on Monday morning, this coming Monday, we are going to be doing a live call-in show, a live call-in daily show, launching a live call-in daily show. So constituents from Minnesota, but all across the country can call in live and interact with me as well from 7 to 9 a.m. Central. So that'll be streamed on Rumble, a platform called Free People Radio. So if you're out there and you're interested in a daily call-in show, or if you want to call in, next Monday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central, we'll be doing the first episode, the first live stream of a call-in show, and that'll be daily. So
that's awesome. RoyceWhite.us, correct?
That's right. RoyceWhite.us.
I'll put that down in the link below. Royce, thank you so much for joining me. God bless you on your journey.
God bless you, brother. Godspeed. I appreciate the time.